Hi everyone, welcome to this tutorial series on HTML. In this video, I will be taking you through HTML basic course and start your journey of becoming a web developer. Today, we are going to learn about HTML forms. An HTML form is used to collect user input. The user input is most often sent to a server for processing. The HTML form tag element is used to create an HTML form for user input. Form page, we are going to write form.html. Shift exclamation mark, click on tab. Our title, we will call it form. Inside our body element, that's where we are going to have our form. We have a form tag, and this form tag is what we call the form element, and this is where our user input is going to be. So we will begin with HTML form attribute. The action attribute defines the action to be performed when the form is submitted. Usually, the form data is sent to a file on the server when the user clicks on the submit button. We have another one that is called the target attribute. The target attribute specifies where to display the response that is received after submitting the form. The target attribute can have one of the following values. We can have underscore blank. The response is displayed in a new window or tab. We can have underscore self. The response is displayed in the current window. And we can have underscore parent. The response is displayed in the parent frame. And also we can have the underscore top. The response is displayed in the full body of the window. The default value is self, which means that the response will open in the current window. Another one we are going to look at is the method attribute. The method attribute specifies the HTTP method to be used when submitting the form data. The form data can be sent as URL variables with method is equals to get, or as HTTP post transaction with method which is equals to post. The default HTTP method when submitting form data is get. Now let us go ahead and have an example of our form. And inside our form, you are going to have action. Going to say action equals to that. And then we will target using, you see, we talked about these attributes, the blank, parent, self, and top. So we use underscore blank and method. We are going to have a get method. Mostly when you are sending your data to a server, we use post method. Okay. A label for our, let's say, first name. And here we'll say first name. Click on go live. The next thing we are going to have is our text. So we say input type. And the input type we are going to have is a text where a user will insert the data. Our input type is going to have an ID, which we'll call it first name or F name. And then we are going to have a name, which is F name. And we are going to have a value. And this value, we are going to say, let's write my first name is Sarah. And inside here, I want us to break to the next line. And then we are going to write, let us have another label for last name. So we say label for L name, and then we say last name, full colon, have an input type of type text with the ID of L name and a value of the same L name. In the name, L name, and then value equals to Wanyeki. We close and we can have another break so that we go to the next line. After this, let us have a button, and this button we're going to say it is an input type, a button, and you're going to give it a value, submit. So this is our submit button. We can add another space here so that we can have a space between our text and our submit button. Before we have our form, we can have a header. Let's have header 2, and we say there's a method attribute, and we can have a paragraph with our sample paragraph so that our form can be displayed accordingly. We go to the next thing. We are going to look at HTML form elements. The HTML form element can contain one or more of the following form elements. We have input, we have label, we can have select, we can have button, field set, and we can have output option. The input element can be displayed in several ways depending on the type attribute. All right, let us look at value element. Let us comment on this. We will come back to it later. So we are going to have a label. We're going to say a label for cars. We'll say choose a car. We select with an ID of cars. Name equals to cars, and size, we're going to give it size 3. That's how our select element looks like. So we are going to insert items inside our select, and we are going to insert our option value. There's a space here, option value, which equals to, let's have Volvo car, Audi, and let's have another car called Fiat. Okay, so now you can select the cars here. Like, this is what we are calling a select element. The next thing we are going to look at is a text area. We just say text area. Inside our text area, we are going to have our text area will have a name. Text area will have a name, and we give it a name message. Give it rows, say 10 rows, and we'll give it columns. Let's say 30 columns. And then inside here we are going to have our text. Let's have that as our text. And after our text area, we should have our button. We can have a button here. Let's comment this. Control and save. HTML, enter, submit. After our text area, let us have a break so that we have our button down here, and this is our text, where we can write our text here. Okay, so the rows attribute, they specify the visible number of lines in a text area, and the columns attribute specifies the visible width of a text area. We have another element that is called the button element, the one we have here. The button element defines a clickable action. We can have a button element. We will comment on this and have a button here. We are going to say it is a button type, button, and we say on click, write alert hello world. When we are done, we close and say click on it, brings a pop-up window with hello world. The next thing we will look at is HTML input types. There are several, but we are going to look at these ones which are very common. We will begin with input type text. and it's like the one we had used before. It is a single line text input field. We have another one that is called an input type of number or telephone. So this one, you are only required to input numbers only. You don't insert characters here, you only insert numbers. The next input type we have is, we have input type text for username, and we have input type password. When you write password, anything you write in the password text box will be hidden because it is a password and we don't want it to be displayed to other people. We have input type checkbox, and in a checkbox, it allows you to select multiple choices according to the list that you've been given. Another one that is similar to that is what we call input radio. And in this input radio, you can only select one option in a list. We have another input type of type color. When you click here, you can select the color of your choice. We have another one that is input type date. And in this one, it gives you the year, the month, and the date. You click on it and it gives you a calendar here where you can select the year. You can select the year, you can select the month, and you can select the date. The other one is input type date time local. It gives you an option to select the date and also the time. We have another input type of type email. You come here and insert your email address. We have another type that is called input type file. In this input type file, when you click on this button written choose file, it will open a window for us, and then you are able to select the file that you want to attach to your document. We have another one that is called input type number, and you can range your numbers between 1 and whichever number you want. Like this one, we have given it between 1 and 5. That's how you can work with input type quantity number. All right, input type number option. The other thing we are going to look at is read-only attribute. The input read-only attribute specifies that an input field is read-only, which means it cannot be modified. Like here, we can come and add on read-only, and we are going to say this field, the first name, or the input field of first name, is a read-only field. If you come here and try to write, you can't write anything. We have another one that is called disabled attribute. Disabled attribute specifies that an input field should be disabled. A disabled input field is unusable and unclickable. Instead of writing read-only, let us remove read-only and say this disabled. And you can see it has already changed to a disabled. You can't even click it. Okay. The other attribute we are going to look at is what is called a placeholder attribute. The input placeholder attribute specifies a short hint that describes the expected value of an input field, a sample value, or a short description of the expected format. The placeholder attribute works with the following input types. It works with the text, it works with the search, URL, telephone, email, and password. Okay? Like in our telephone here, we can come and write, let's have a placeholder, and let's have a placeholder of something like this. A placeholder that only displays, or it describes the expected value. The other attribute we will look at is what is called the required attribute. The input required attribute specifies that an input field must be filled out before submitting the form. Okay, like we can have the password, where we have the password attribute. We can come here and add this one. We say required. We can say it is. The last attribute that we are going to look at is what is called the autofocus attribute. The input autofocus attribute specifies that an input field should automatically get focus when the page loads. We can give our autofocus in our last name here. Type text lname. We will come here and write autofocus. Let us refresh our page. You can see that the last name input field automatically get focus when the page loads. We have come to the end of today's lesson. Go ahead and practice what we have learned, and don't forget to subscribe, to like and share this video with your friends, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one.